Have you got a big Tory?
Huh?
Have you got a big Tory?
Oh, no. Big what?
Tory.
Hey, this is getting off the chain.
What is wrong with this motherfucker?
What time is it then? Please tell these guys.
It's Tony time, bitches!
Welcome to Tony's MMA Corner, the only MMA channel with a big old Corey. Yeah, it's a big old dosa. Wait, is dosa good? I don't know. I am your host, Tony Sepulveda! And today, we're gonna fantasize about a heavyweight matchup between two of the biggest stars of the two big combat sports. Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury. Before we get into that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It's the only way we're gonna beat the YouTube overlords. Also, become a patron on my Patreon so that you can get a shout out on Tony's MMA Corner. If you don't, then you probably got a little Corey. It seems that Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou have verbally agreed to a hybrid boxing match. Now, while this doesn't seem to have the same appeal of the Conor Mayweather bout, I'm still down. Because I'm just a fan of violence. And heavyweight violence packs a powerful punch. One of the big questions is Dana White going to be down? Because Francis is still on the contract with the UFC. And we all know that Dana White runs a tight ship. Now, in my opinion, Dana White should just let it happen. Look it. Francis is looking for that big payday. This is a perfect opportunity to get it for him. And it doesn't even have to come from Dana White. As a matter of fact, Dana White should let all of these guys do side boxing matches for big paydays. Because then he doesn't have to pay them. He just co-promotes with somebody else. And then they make that payday in that fashion. It's a perfect business model for Dana White. And I think we've gotten to the point where we're so used to seeing MMA fighters lose to boxers in boxing, it doesn't really matter as far as the MMA career goes. Now, what exactly do they mean by hybrid? I mean, Francis mentioned 4-ounce gloves, which is interesting. Because ONE FC has done something similar with their Muay Thai division. They do Muay Thai with the smaller MMA gloves, and it's amazing. It's too bad that ONE FC has a bunch of fighters with names we can't pronounce because they probably do a lot better. In the West, that is. Because from what I hear, they're killing it everywhere else. Now, I think to really sell this bout as competitive, we're going to have to give Francis Ngannou some kind of advantage. Because let's face it, the majority of the time, boxers are better at boxing. Now, one organization that just recently ran an MMA versus boxing card had some pretty interesting rules, and I think they kind of leveled out the playing field a little bit. I mean, MMA actually ended up winning that night, and that event is Triad Combat. And one of the things about the Triad Combat card is their rule set allowed for a lot of clinch action, and what was interesting, which they didn't really get to take advantage of, it allowed for spinning attacks like a spinning back fist, and also allowed for the Superman punch, which I think would make it a little bit more interesting for Francis Ngannou if he can use these weapons. Because these are weapons that boxers are certainly not used to seeing, and could make it a little bit more interesting. It could really make us believe that the power of Francis Ngannou can take out Tyson Fury. I also kind of like the gloves that the Triad Combat card had. Those were a nice middle ground between boxing gloves and MMA gloves. Although Tyson Fury does seem to be open to facing Ngannou with the MMA gloves. Now, I was listening to Michael Bisping on his YouTube channel, which is a pretty awesome YouTube channel. It's a lot more professional and fancy than this one. Like, he's become like a legit YouTuber now. And of course, it's fancy because everything the British do is fancy. Now, Bisping thought that it'd be a huge mistake for Francis Ngannou to agree to a bout with the smaller MMA gloves, especially since it would be just boxing. Whether I agree with him or not, I think having those triad gloves would solve that issue. Another option to explore, and which I think is a more middle ground for MMA fighters and boxers to compete, is that you just make it a kickboxing bout. A war of stand-up. The big thing is that boxers do not want to go to the ground. Why? Because they will get humiliated on the ground. And they know this. They will get emasculated and manhandled for dominance. And they don't like that idea. I get it. Plus, grappling is something that it's just really hard to pick up really quickly. However, why don't they meet in the middle with some kickboxing? MMA fighters need to start negotiating these type of terms because it helps them meet more in the middle. I mean, come on. They're always meeting the boxers in their realm. And while they do pretty well in most cases, a lot of times they lose. Boxers seem to have the A side when it comes to negotiating because they know they could offer the money. Going back to some of the rules that they had in that triad card that I was talking about, they were allowed to do a lot of work in the clinch. They were allowed to dirty box, and they were allowed to stay in that position a lot longer than they would normally be in a normal boxing match. And I think this would be a great idea as well to help even it out for Francis Ngannou. And I think it's something that Tyson will be down with because, let's face it, Tyson does a lot of clinching in his boxing. He tends to put that big old 6'9" frame to wear guys out. So I think that's something that he'd definitely be down for. Those are some of the things I like to see Francis Ngannou negotiate for himself in the rule set so that they can make it a more competitive bout. And they could really sell us on the fact that he's had a chance to win. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this bout's even gonna happen? What do you guys think about the rules that I proposed? Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you guys next time on Tony's MMA Corner. Take that, you dassa!
Have you got a big Tory?